Good morning. This is Spirit Journey. Wow, I've been up for a while now. It's about 10 a.m. It's Sunday, and I just watched a video with Madonna. She had received an award, 2016, that's 1/6, 2016 award for Woman of the Year. I think it was Billboard Woman of the Year award. One thing I could say regarding Madonna is I commend her for her longevity. Wow. I remember when she first started out. You learn a lot about a person when you hear them speak. I mean, my seeing Madonna in the media, it was always, a performance, her singing, or sometimes she's being interviewed. But this is the first time I ever heard her give a speech, at least what I could remember. And it was very telling. See, I have a perspective on Madonna, like everyone else, but she has a perspective. She has her own perspective. And what I'm learning about her is that she has feelings and things that drive her. And I guess being someone outside of her, that it's hard for me to perceive what the problem is. And I was surprised when she said about the world being misogynistic. But I look at her because everything that I felt her as a performer was that she was always pushing the envelope and always trying to shock you. And I thought she used her sexuality as a tool to get what she wanted. But she did explain in the video, and I knew about it. Years later, not at the time when it happened, but she was attacked. She said her place was robbed. When she lived in New York City, she said in 1 year, she was robbed at gunpoint. She was raped at knife point, the knife to her throat. Her place where she lived was broken into many times, and that many people that she was friends with died, all in that 1 year she was there in New York in 1979. Yeah, things were very violent back then, 79, 80s. I guess things like that happening, like she's coming from a different state, from Michigan, I think. Yeah, Michigan. And as a newcomer to New York City, she came from a middle class background, but she came uh, just with the money in her pocket and to make it big for herself. So I commend her being someone who's not from here and achieving what she did. Yes, things were very harsh during those days, and not having family to support her, she had to make it on her own. But again, in New York City, it's either you have money or you don't. And if you don't have money and to live in your own place, you have to live in a really challenging neighborhood, black or white. And she lived in the east side, in the Greenwich Village. And interesting, I used to work like a block away where she used to live, right off St. Mark's Place. And I actually liked that area. But back then, the late 70s, early 80s, it was very, very seedy looking. And I worked there, right about a block away. And so I know what she's talking about. Um, but it's like back then you had poor whites, but these were like people who were into the punk rock scene, things like that. But I wouldn't say like see, there's poverty, where you're on the social bottom of the ladder, social ladder. And then you had blacks. Then even if you had some money, you were still on the bottom of the social ladder. And so that's the hard part. See, whites in those days, in my perspective, they were able to socially move up once they obtained, especially if you're an artist, you move up and you get more money and status. You move up the social ladder. But regardless, if you're a black person, there's only really one bottom, one social ladder for you. But if you're a black person, you have to have approval by whites to be accepted in their social environment. And so I think for myself that, see, whether you're a mixed race black or a lighter skinned black, at least how I feel, that I don't want to give up my origins. I know that it's nice to feel that you're being accepted as you're moving up, if you want to move up the ladder. But there's a point where you have to say no, that some things you don't want to compromise. I don't want to compromise that part of me that was vilified. I remember in the late 70s and the early 80s when I first started out, especially the early 80s, from 1980 on, that's when I graduated from high school, and I was learning about the ropes of life, and that being a person of black heritage, especially if you're confused about your racial identity as a black woman who has mixed heritage, it was horrible. I always felt that I had to try my best, try to be, proper. But I feel that no matter what, that you really are never really accepted. And you could have a college degree. You can have your hair straightened and lightened, but you're not white, and you're really never accepted. And you will always be reminded of that. And so I think about also the wedding of Meghan Markle from yesterday. She's now the Duchess of Sussex. That to really just relax, it will always be an issue about race and identity. That no matter how high you think you're going, you'll always have someone in the audience to remind you what you're not. And I would say that's how I feel these days, that I come to grounds with that you would never be a white person. And even if you get so-called white privilege still isn't white. And that there are rules, just like with the royal family of Britain. There are rules, even within their social structure, there are rules, and you're not supposed to break them. And that if they break them, or if non-white royalties break the social norms, just like Madonna, she was breaking social norms. And the social norms when she got started is, okay, she's a white girl in New York City, and the people that helped her to where she is, because she didn't start out as a musician, she started out as a dancer. And she realized in the very beginning when she went to go on an audition, she said, "No, this is not for me." She was like waiting on line, it was an open call for dancers. And she sees a long line of other females who want to do the audition for dancing. She said, there's no competition, there's, how do you say this? The likelihood her getting the spot. So she had to reinvent herself, and that's when she started with this singing, learning how to play an instrument and singing. And she paired herself with blacks and homosexuals. And again, in New York City, in that neighborhood, those were the people in her immediate circle. She's not going to be in an upper class white environment. She came into the heart of the city, the, the Greenwich Village, and that was a poor area, and that's who she's going to meet, and that's where she'll be able to afford. She had to live in a place, in a seedy hotel on St. Mark's, and I think that's where her attack happened. So it's interesting that, so here for her to start out, it was like this was her initiation in life, a big initiation of trauma. But like a trooper, Madonna, whether you like her or hate her, she persevered. And in the award, Woman of the Year award for the Billboard, she mentioned names of former performers, performers who had died in the past few years. She said, "I'm still standing." And she is right. She's still standing. I think she's one of the richest performers. Her net asset, I think she might be close to a billionaire. So she keeps reinventing herself. And that's what I saw over the years with Madonna. She keeps reinventing herself. She initially, I felt, exploited black people. Her first boyfriend in town was a Haitian guy. He was a graffiti artist. He was a black fellow of Haitian ancestry, or actually from Haiti, but he got shot by the police. I think he was doing graffiti or something, and the police shot him and killed him. So it's interesting. She would pair up with people, and that first boyfriend was a black boyfriend. She also had a white boyfriend who taught her how to play. I think there was the guitar and other things. So you can meet people, good or bad, and it's what you do with those people. So with her, she maximized every opportunity, and it seemed like each one, especially the Haitian boyfriend, the she would pair herself with somebody that's in contrast to what she is racially initially, and the gay crowd. And in each movement, she was moving up to being seen. And I feel Madonna would do things to be seen. And I don't understand why that drive. We all want to be seen and heard, yes. But it seemed more. And so I think growing up and seeing Madonna, I didn't understand what that drive was coming from. I felt that, I said, what's the problem? She's a white female. She's from a middle-class family. She could just go mainstream, and just, be like any other white female of her day. But she did feel stigma. She I think, realized up front, again, her initial association in New York City was um, blacks and in the gay scene, and that so she's aware of what she is in comparison to who she's pairing herself with. So she learned right up front about racism, that if you hang around with black people, what could happen? For one, you can get shot by the cops if you're doing graffiti. Um, what it's like being around homosexual men, and in the 80s, they're all dying of AIDS. So these are two extremes, social extremes that's different from herself. And I think that made her fight more, um, because it's like if you're with someone and you identify with that person and their plot, you also become a part of it, a part of them. So her being a part of this Haitian man, a black Haitian man, and then in contrast again, a homosexual, a male homosexual. And these things, if you identify and associate with that, you're going to feel it. And so I think that's what might have initially done that. Again, um, it's also the stigma of losing a parent at a very, very early age. That I think would be the initial pain, and then I think the father remarried. So I think that really put her in wanting to define herself and wanting to be the center of attention. So, yeah, Madonna, whatever awards, Madonna has earned it. I guess with me, it was listen to her speak, and it was deep. I enjoyed a lot of things she said in the speech. A lot of it was the typical Madonna to shock you. I would say that the thing that stands out the most, which I didn't understand, was when she said it's a very much misogynistic world. And I didn't feel, I said, how could it be misogynistic if it's something that, if she's using her sexuality into such an edge? So I felt that she was playing a part of the whole uh, female, objectifying. But one thing I did learn, she said she used the term, what made her different. That yes, she used her sexuality, but she owned her sexuality. That was the key thing. What brought to my understanding, that put in perspective, because I didn't understand that. I thought she was exploiting her sexuality, but she clarified she owned her sexuality. Yes, play the sexy, but she did more than just that. She said this is her, that she's in control of her sexuality. And I said, wow, I didn't see it as that. I didn't realize that that's what she was fighting against. She felt that they were trying to put her in a box and say, okay, we want you to do this or that. I thought she was always in control, and I didn't understand where the fight was coming from. So I guess she's saying, look, I didn't feel that I was in control, and I wanted to control my destiny and my sexuality, and that's a first for me. So we just leave me for today. I guess I'm someone who is trying to find out where I stand in this world. Um, I'm not a young girl anymore, and as Madonna said, as you get older, she was saying that once you reach a certain age, they don't want to play your music anymore. And I know exactly what she's talking about. I'm not a musician or anything like that, but I look at myself. Me as a YouTuber, I'm not a young 20-something-year-old girl. And when you see someone who's 40s, 50s, you don't want to watch them on You don't want to see that. Oh, that's a middle-aged woman. You want to see them like someone in their 20s, right? 20s, 30s, pushing it. But soon when you start to mature, that we're socially conditioned that you are no longer desirable, you're no longer of value because of your age, and that your value is based on how pretty you look or how young looking you look, like your reproductive years. Once you pass your reproductive years, you're thrown in the garbage. And I start to sense this about myself, that it's only a season for you as a woman to be taken seriously as an attractive woman, as a viable woman. And once you reach that age, it's like the doors are shut. And Madonna, as a performer, is experiencing this. It was a realization for her. She learned this early in her career. And I remember when she was 40, and she said, "What? I become 40, I'm supposed to roll over and die?" I understand. So I feel for me that I'm starting to feel the stigma or the realization about being a certain age, and that it's all for a season. And so maybe even me as a YouTuber, that you have your season and then that's it. But I hope with this channel, again, my channel Spirit Journey, is really about my awakening of what it's like to live a life and blinded by the stigma of racism, and to a smaller extent, sexism. I would say for me, my race or racial identity was always an issue, more over than my being a woman or a female. So regardless what I am, I carry myself with me, and I want to present myself in a way that I'm always proud of myself, that I walk by myself, within myself, alone. Even if you're with a crowd of people, you always are with you, and you experience you. And you experience you alone, because only you feel what's going on inside your head. So I hope in this spirit journey of mine that you might see people, celebrities, and they too walk within themselves and experience their feelings that's going on in their head. So I hope that this journey will continue to grow, and that I learn more about myself, and that this be an eternal journey of peace, love, and joy. It's self-acceptance. I always want to be self-accepting. I thank you guys. Bye-bye.